Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi and welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network, and I am your host, Atiq Ahmad Bhatti, and I do hope, as always, that you are well and that you've had a wonderful week indeed. Now, my guest on today's episode is Zoë Scanlan, who retrained in homeopathy after having her first child almost 20 years ago. She was also inspired after homeopathy healed her postnatal depression and her baby's impetigo almost overnight. Fantastic just to know that, isn't it? Now, Zoe's clinic is actually in Brighton in the UK, and she has a very special interest in supporting parents to treat their children using homeopathy. Her well-loved book for parents called Homeopathy and Natural Remedies for Children also supports this work. Woohoo! She is an author indeed. And if that wasn't enough, I have to say she is also now the homeopathy course director at the College of Naturopathic Medicine in London. It's also called CNM, and you'll remember in the early days, the founder and director at that time was Herman Kepler. He came on at that time, and we have actually good news. We do still keep in touch, and that's why Zoe is here. So without further ado, Zoë Scanlan, it's so nice to have you on the Homeopathy Health Show. Welcome.
Thank you, Atiq. It's lovely to be here with you.
So you have a fascinating journey indeed. And I've been interested to know actually about you retraining in homeopathy. What does that mean?
Well, prior to having children, I just had a great love for nature. So when I was training after, school, I went and did environmental science because I was wanting to save the world at that point. So I did a degree and a master's in homeopathy. No, sorry, no, not homeopathy, environmental science and environmental management. And that was very much my career up until having my children. And but when I had my children, I don't know, I guess something changed in me. To be honest, I used to feel a bit upset with the humans on planet Earth for, losing nature and, and so...
We are paranormal, aren't we? So, welcome to Earth.
I know, I used to feel so
fish
bad.
And chips.
Yeah, I know. So it was quite a turnaround, really. It was after, I think something happened to my heart. When I had children, I suddenly started to care very much for humans. And obviously the experiences that you just read out about the impetigo for my little 10-week-old son. And I wouldn't say I had terrible postnatal depression, but definitely mild postnatal depression that was it was very hard to manage at the time. And I refused to, I just didn't believe I'd had postnatal depression. But the homeopathic sepia was my first remedy that I ever took. And it was just so profound, the change I had literally overnight. And also seeing impetigo literally clear up over sort of 24 hours. That was on my little baby. He was only 10 weeks old and we were kind of being threatened with antibiotics, which just... my instincts were screaming at me, no, don't do this. So these two experiences, I just thought, wow, that's absolutely incredible. How do those tiny little sugar pills create that much change in such a short space of time? And I think, and so I just felt like kind of compelled, really. I thought I really want to understand how that works. And that was the point at which my career changed, which was wonderful because I always say that if I'd never become a professional homeopath, those sort of 4 years training as a homeopath would have been time well spent, contributing as a tool for a mother. because I brought my two boys up, they're 19 and 14, and they've only ever had homeopathy. So it brought a lot of peace to me as a mother to have that knowledge. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
I always say when we have stories like this that it's so important, isn't it? Because of the empowerment factor there.
Yeah.
And just to know that you can do something about health even whilst you are at home, it's so, so important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I work now with lots of mothers and parents in my clinic and in my practice. And I think it's one of the most rewarding things that I do really is to help parents understand about the holistic health paradigm, which is obviously quite different to how we're, I don't know, conditioned in society to understand health to be and what we have to do if we are ill.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just, and it is, as you say, it's like empowering to understand health and to see sort of the light bulb go off when it's like, no, we mustn't suppress a fever. If you're going to do something amazing for your child, you've got to let them go through a fever, unsuppressed. And homeopathy is a wonderful tool. And I think parents very often turn to Calpol and antibiotics because they don't really have any other alternatives. We're not
Yeah.
trained in any other way of dealing with illness, and so yeah, it's lovely to introduce those ideas to parents and to see how the children improve. And like you say, the parents gain confidence and empowered. I mean, there's nothing better, I think, to be able to, reach for your homeopathy kit when you've got your child, going through a fever in the middle of the night and be able to give them a remedy and just they do that wonderful sigh where they just let go, roll over and go back to sleep. And you just, they wake up very different in the morning. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful tool to have as a parent. I'd love homeopathy to be put in. They used to have these packs, I think they used to be called bounty packs at the hospital. They used to give out to all new mothers, and I'm sure there was Coca-Cola and all sorts of terrible things in there. I'd love them to have sepia and a few basic remedies. That would be a great thing to offer new mothers.
It's interesting because just earlier today I was talking to a patient and she said, oh, her little boy was not feeling very well and he ran to her and he said, I need the homeopathy.
Oh,
And that was just brilliant
yeah,
and he responds really well to it. And
yeah,
it's just like, that's the empowerment, right?
mm,
To have this knowledge. And I always find we're in a very strange predicament, aren't we? Because it's almost like, dare I say it, everything has to be so controlled that we have to follow a process. But it's not about that. If it's about your health, there is no process. There is actually
mm,
just a call to action, right? And
yes,
you
yes,
do what you need to, you mold accordingly, and to have knowledge about your own health. I mean, come on, we're in the 21st century,
mm,
you know?
yeah,
We need to be able to have that much empowerment that we can, for common ailments, certainly for acutes as well, that we are able to treat ourselves. Why not? I
yeah.
mean, isn't that a benefit to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it costs less. It's very cheap homeopathy. And yeah, I think yeah, I'd love to see more households with a homeopathy kit and a little guidebook that's not complicated, just to give a parents a starting point.
Hmm.
And then it's not to put us professional homeopaths out of business because I'm always here to guide parents that are wanting to learn themselves. And it's just, yeah, it's just so nice to see what they can do. And also it's comforting for them to know they can always turn to, somebody like me or somebody like you that knows a little bit more. And it's an ongoing journey. I mean, even though I've been doing homeopathy for so many years, I still feel like I'm learning constantly.
Hmm.
I still feel like, God, I don't even think I know very much. It's really an incredible, never-ending form of learning.
Yeah, it's
And all of us, I'm
extremely
sure.
progressive as well. And
Yeah.
I join you in that. There's always so much to learn. But that also tells you that it has to be a real science, right? Because of the fact that it's progressive. New remedy provings, new
Mm.
ways of approaching certain conditions. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I mean, there's so much research going on around the world. And yes, it may not hit the headlines,
Mm.
but there is a lot of work being done, isn't it, in the
Yeah.
background?
Yeah, there is, there is. And all the wonderful podcasts also. I know podcasts are a real thing at the moment, and it's such a brilliant way to get information. There's your podcast and And just hearing about all of these different homeopaths all around the world, just the way they specialize, we all specialize, don't we? So I always think about homeopathy training as like learning to drive a car. You do your training, you get your qualification, but then it's really when you start practicing that you really develop and learn. I think it has been that case for me. And we all go in different directions depending what our interests are, what our background is, and the way life takes us. And I think we can all learn so much from each other as professional homeopaths.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you. And hey, I wanted to ask you actually something about postnatal depression. So, having gone through that in whatever form,
Mm,
it's interesting because sometimes people don't get it unless they go through something, and that doesn't mean obviously anybody saying go through it, but it's you only know how to treat something, right, when you're in that predicament and when you
mm,
are going through something. And it's the way that the mind works, right, and the different hormones that are involved. And here comes homeopathy and says, do you know what? Rather than force you to get better, let's just align you back up. Let's
mm.
rebalance you, you know? And it's such a soft and gentle way that sometimes you don't even know when you've come out of that
Yes.
forest, haven't you?
Yeah, that's so true. I was talking about that recently. Just how, if you have obviously you do your first consultation and then you've got your second follow-up consultation. And I always love it actually in that second consultation where you might the client might come back and they say, well, I don't know, I think it's helped, or they're not fully clear. And then you go back and say, oh, well, how's this symptom and how's that symptom? And they say, oh, I completely forgot I had that. Oh no, it's fine. Oh yeah, that's better. Oh, and what about this? And oh no, I don't have that anymore. Yeah, and I always explain to them, that health is silent. We only really notice when we're out of kilter, when we are back in balance and feeling fine. Life's busy, and our mind is then grabbed by something else, to take our attention.
Mm,
And it's only really if somebody regresses back into a negative health state that they'd come out of, that they really notice, the change and the healing that they've been through. I mean, sometimes it's, direct and profound, and there's absolutely no question. And very often it's like that. But also very often it's really nice to sort of look back and remind them. And yeah, health is silent. It only shouts at us when we're out of balance or something's ailing or hurting. Yeah,
mm.
it's mm,
Very interesting.
mhm.
And you're obviously based in Brighton. I introduced
Yes.
you
Yes.
saying that actually, that you have a clinic in Brighton, and you have this special interest in supporting parents to treat their children using homeopathy. And that's so important. Just with that little example I shared, and even at home, I know very much that we don't need to go to get anything from anybody.
No, no.
It's just, I'm just being careful with the words I use, as you can imagine, but everything is self-sufficient.
Mm,
And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because everybody knows what they need to do at a time of illness, how to be very mature about it, because that's also very important, isn't it, Zoe? Being
mm.
mature in your understanding, but that only comes as a result of empowerment.
Yeah, knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Knowledge. Yeah, you can feel like you use the word mature, and I think we can be calm and collected and balanced when it comes to health or ill health
Mm.
when we have faith in what we're doing, and that
Yeah.
takes a little while to develop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because yeah, we're very conditioned to just trot off to the doctor at every symptom, whereas yeah, it's such an opportunity to be able to sort of put all of those things to the side. And I always think about it as like a new plan A. Like you're learning homeopathy, it takes a little while to have that moment where you just think, oh my God, that is amazing. And I think once people have that moment, I think of it as an Arnica moment, like you have, especially if someone's had a symptom that's like an ongoing symptom and they know the general pattern of it, they get ill,
Mm.
maybe it's cystitis, they go to the doctor, they get antibiotics, and then they feel better. And then, of course, very often with antibiotics, the symptom will come back. So it's always so satisfying to, offer a remedy that they can either use themselves at home or, something constitutional that you'd get from a professional homeopath, and then see that completely different pathway that they then take, from the normal route that they are so used to. And that's when you can really see, what homeopathy can do and offer somebody. And it's always very satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, and as you were saying that, I was just thinking that we're used to, generally, when you look at conventional systems, it's all about dosage. And sometimes, those pills are quite big, right? Those tablets.
Yeah, yeah.
And then with homeopathy, one globule, and that's it. That's one dose, and it's tasty, right?
Yeah, children love it. You don't have to force a child to have homeopathy at all.
Isn't that just brilliant, though, to be able to, seriously, in the grand scheme of things, right, to be able to get somebody better with a relatively sweet tablet, pill, or even a few drops.
Yes.
Just such a delight, isn't it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And children love it because I think it's such a lovely transmission of care and love from the mother or father or carer, whoever's providing that for a child. The children love it. And like you say, they'll often come and ask the mum for one, I mean, the parents that I work with will often say, oh, they absolutely love it. I have to hide the remedies from them. And that's something else, actually. I don't know how many of your listeners are sort of lay people. I don't know how many are homeopaths, but that's also something that's really important to know because, I'm sure most homeopaths have had that where you've had a mother phoning up saying, oh, my God, my child found the kit and they've eaten all of the arnica pills and, what's going to happen? And you can just say, with confidence, don't worry. As long as they haven't, eaten them with 5 minutes intervals, they're likely to have gobbled them all up quite quickly. And so that's probably just 1 or 2 doses of arnica, isn't it? Rather than, if you drank, obviously, if you ate a whole packet of allopathy, that would be very problematic. But
It would be
so gentle. And and I think people have the concept of, of how many pills to take. That's so different, isn't it? It's so different to get your head around from the allopathic way that if you have 1 pill or if you have 2 pills, that's like double the dose. Whereas in homeopathy, you could have 1 pill, 1 granule, 1 drop, a whole bottle, and that would all just still be one remedy as long as it was, above 12C.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if it's based on energy anyway, and the vibrational essence of a remedy or the digital signature, let's call it, then it doesn't really, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't make a difference. But I do think also from the other side, though, that it may well be because we're so used to take this 3 times a day, 15 minutes before meals, take 2 tablets, take 3. So it's almost like you could argue just good housekeeping to say 2 tablets or 1, that's where I'm coming from, certainly, because otherwise it's the same. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't.
No. These little tiny little pills. And and my experience of going back to the postnatal depression, it was so profound that I just remember, and this thing about that we now know so well as homeopaths, that feeling of you just feel better in yourself. That just really kind of flummoxed me, but the feeling was so sort of strong and so clear. Because I was feeling this like flat line of like my mood was so low and I was feeling anxious about so many things, that I knew that I wouldn't usually feel anxious about. And 1 dose, I think it was like a sepia 200, I think it was. I took 1 before bed. And it was that next morning, I just woke up and it was such a moment for me. So I just remember looking around the room thinking, oh my gosh, I think I feel a bit better. I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was that felt better, but I just felt lighter somehow. And of course, we know that now to be, a very sort of profound shift internally of I just feel better in myself. You're on the right track when somebody feels like that. And then of course, you'll see it with a child, that's maybe got a malaise or a cold or a fever. They'll be sort of very lethargic on the sofa and you give them a remedy. And next thing you know, they've popped up and they're pottering around or playing. They've still got their cold or they might still have the fever or, whatever the symptoms are. But there's something about their basic energy that shifts, that they'll suddenly have the capacity to get up and read a book or have a little play with something, It's so tangible and so apparent. It's such a wonderful form of treatment.
It is, and also, what's so wonderful about it is because over time, it just becomes normality.
Yeah,
Your child's got a fever, your child's, I don't know, God forbid, got food poisoning, or they're just not feeling well, they've got a bit of a temperature or a cold. It's like, here you go, take these, and you just carry on.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Now I have to
yeah,
do this.
yeah,
I need to call the school. I need to do this. I need to
yes,
call the GP. I need to go to the pharmacy. Panic, panic, panic. It's not. It's just like, well, there you go. Settle
yeah,
down, have some water, or
yeah,
whatever it is that needs to be done. And
yeah.
it's so nice, isn't it? It's so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's very comforting and it's very soothing for a mother's anxiety, isn't it? I mean, I do think that there's and I could probably put myself in this camp as well, that it attracts mothers or parents that are slightly arsenicum in nature,
Mm,
and I think I see that a lot in the parents and that I work with. They're really drawn to homeopathy because for the layperson that doesn't know about arsenicum, they're very, very worried about health. And I think you never quite know what you're going to be like as a parent until it actually happens. Some parents are so super chilled, and other ones become really quite frightened with the responsibility, and the health of their child really worries and troubles them. And that's quite typically arsenicum. And I think, I mean, it's many other remedies as well, but I think homeopathy really suits the arsenicum type because they respond to anxiety by, needing that element of control in life. And homeopathy gives that to them. It gives them a form of control that is very effective and it soothes them, and as a practitioner, holding their hand just to kind of get them over the starting line of going through the first fever, using homeopathy rather than, leaning into Calpol, which is just such a normal part of day-to-day family life, to have the Calpol in the drawer.
yeah.
And yeah, it's always such a joy to introduce. I always think about that ABC, the Helios ABC. I never write it down like this, but I'll often say, it's great for pain, fever, inflammation. So if you're going to reach for the Calpol, reach for this first and see, just see what's possible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm.
Um, hey, I want to ask you about your book. When did it actually come out? Do tell.
Oh, well, that was, I mean, I never intended to write a book. It was kind of an accident, but it was when I was studying, we had to do a dissertation. I studied at South Downs School of Homeopathy, which is based in Chichester
I
University.
know, I teach there.
Oh, do you? Oh, very
It's
fond
such a nice
memories.
school.
It is, it
Honestly,
is. The setting's fantastic there.
it is.
So we had to do a dissertation as part of our training, and I decided I was going to create information sheets that were going
Okay.
to, because I didn't just want. I felt my role as a homeopath, I feel, is very much about education. It's not just about giving a pill and improving health. It's about really shifting people's awareness of what they can do and just kind of understanding the holistic health kind of paradigm.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to just give them a pill. I wanted to give them information about, I don't know, colic or nappy rash that they can take away and they can find products that are, useful products for them, or information, or, I don't know, herbs or flower essences, all of these essential oils, dietary advice. I wanted to give them a more complete option, that
Yeah.
they can, that,
Yeah.
as we said again, like just to kind of empower them and give them different options apart from just the homeopathy. So that was what it began. That's what it began as. And I had all these little different information sheets about colic and fever and asthma and eczema and nappy rash and all sorts, constipation, coughs. And just literally at the end of the training, somebody said, "Well, why don't you put them all together and make it into like a little book?"
Mm.
And it had never occurred to me. And I thought, really? And one of my my peers at the college on my course said, "Oh, I'd buy one." So I bought it in, and a few of my classmates bought these books, and I just couldn't quite believe it. And it kind of
Brilliant.
just
That's
sowed a
so good,
seed.
isn't it?
Yeah, sowed a seed in my mind. And so then I made it into more of a proper book, added more chapters. It's got, oh, I don't know, it's probably got about 20 chapters, I think.
Oh, do go through. Do go
Oh
through what
yeah,
you've
yeah,
covered.
okay.
I'd
I'm
be.
just looking at it now. Yeah. So it starts off, it's got like sort of a first part which introduces like a natural home medical kit. So it talks about homeopathy and remedies, tissue salts, vibrational essences, aromatherapy, herbs. So it's got that is like your medicine kit. And then
Okay.
it gives information. There's a few chapters about, ingredients for a healthy child, how to care for your unwell child naturally, and then using homeopathy specifically to treat children. So that's like the first sort of part of the book. And then it goes into all the ailments, which are like asthma, behavioural and learning difficulties, birth trauma, chickenpox, colds, colic, stop me when you're bored, conjunctivitis, constipation, coughs, croup, diarrhea, earache, eczema, emotional well-being, fever, German measles. And so it kind of goes on. So, and it talks about just seeing, sore throats, teething, vaccine. I've got a chapter in about vaccination, which is always obviously a very emotive issue. But I worked a lot for Arnica when my children were younger. I don't know if you probably are aware of the Arnica network.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with a lovely colleague of mine, Carmel Odell, who's also a homeopath, we used to run the Arnica in Brighton together, the Sussex
Oh,
Arnica.
that's
So,
nice.
so vaccination was always a really important topic, just to offer parents information and guidance of information. So I would always refer, we always arrange for Jane Donegan to come down to Brighton and talk to the parents about it. And so that was really important for me to put it in there. But yeah, I know it's a very emotive topic and I won't go on about it now because you might have to cut this out. I don't know how sort of free it is. Anyway, going on. So weaning and nutrition, whooping cough and worms. So that is, that's the list. And Helios, there was such a lovely lady that worked at Helios not long after probably, I don't know, some years after I graduated. And I remember phoning her and saying, would you like to stock my book in Helios? And she was so supportive. She was so lovely. I sent her a copy and she just wrote such a lovely write-up about it and was kind of so encouraging because I wasn't very confident of it or myself, as a practitioner or that even this was of any value. And she said, actually, I think there's a little gap in the market for that because it's nothing fancy. It's something I print myself and it's literally noddy homeopathy. It's like homeopathy. It's like bullet points and a small table with a few words to describe the remedies. But what I've discovered is it's just a really good introduction for parents, that isn't too wordy, that they can open in the middle of the night when their, child has a fever and just literally look at this very sort of simple prescribing guide. And and I've had wonderful feedback on it. It's actually very touching, quite surprising and very touching, the impact and what it's opened up for parents. It just is a little tool for them to rely on and to read, and it's good information.
Good. Wonderful. And if anyone is interested, obviously you mentioned Helios, haven't you?
Oh yeah, it's available. Yeah, you can buy it from the Homeopathic Bookshop, from Helios, from myself, Informed Parent, from the Arnica. No, not the Arnica. Yeah, there's a few different places. If you just Google it, you'll find it, or you can contact me directly.
Good. So I do want to talk about your work as the course director at the College of Naturopathic Medicine, which is the CNM.
Yeah.
Do share what that entails, I guess, because I know that it's a massive college
Yes.
with many hubs around the world.
Yes.
And in fact, when Herman came on, he did share quite a bit of information of how it works. But how's the homeopathy department, I suppose? How is that going?
Yeah, it's going really well. I think the biggest development for us at the moment is that we're creating an online course. That's the newest sort of project that we're working on. So at the moment, it's an in-person course, and generally it happens. The students would come in about once a month. All the courses at CNM. I mean, it's lovely. It's sort of like special feature, I guess, as a college is that if you go in to learn one of the specialisms, and the main specialisms there are nutrition, homeopathy, herbalism, acupuncture. But the lovely thing is that you'll always come out with two diplomas, your specialism and also a naturopathic diploma as well. Because even if you came and studied homeopathy, you'd also study naturopathy alongside your homeopathy, which is actually really interesting because, my book, that's really what my book is doing. It's saying, here's homeopathy, which is obviously amazing by itself, but here's all of these other things, diet and flower essences and nutrition, I've said. But there's all these other sort of natural cures, lotions and potions that are just brilliant to know about. And that's what, that's what the naturopathic element of the college really offers. So you've got your main modality, but then you've got all of this extra information, iridology, tissue salts, so all the students will have a rounded knowledge of herbs, of all of the modalities. So herbs, homeopathy, tissue salts, TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine. And so you're not just your knowledge is much more rounded, which I think is really lovely. And obviously, within the college, students will often move around between courses. They might start off doing nutrition and then think, oh, I think I'm going to learn homeopathy. But it's interesting because they C&M just had their 25th anniversary last year, or perhaps it was the year before, but very, very recently. And when C&M began, the homeopathy course was the biggest course it ran. So I studied 2006 to 2010. So I think it was all happening around that time. So the course that was the most thriving, hugest course, just basically petered out into nothing. And it's now obviously, now we're running it again, and it's coming back with great vigor, which is really exciting. And I think it actually represents sort of what's happening in the homeopathy world wider than just the college, because I think the pandemic did a great job in helping us in that respect. I think I remember, I think Helios and the homeopathic pharmacies have never been busier, since during and since the pandemic. So it's interesting, the sort of fluctuation in homeopathy, the journey that it's taken, whereas it's, we obviously got so many homeopathic hospitals but there's there was, there probably still is, but it's less loud at the moment, a real push to suppress it, push it down. And people are often very surprised that there was homeopathic hospitals in the UK, and that you could, and you still can, go to your GP and get referred to a homeopathic hospital. So that's always, that's very surprising to people, because it's certainly not mainstream knowledge, but that is the truth. And that homeopathy, and I think the history of homeopathy is so interesting, about how homeopathy rivaled allopathy. They were kind of equals when it all first began. And what I always love to think, I always love to tell people that because obviously allopathy at that time was doing a lot of mercury elixirs, and actually they were labelled the quack doctors, because people literally felt like they were going mad after their mercury elixir. And so it's very interesting how they've cleverly twisted it around, that we are now known as the quacks, but actually it was them. That's
it's
all your friends.
But things are changing. Times are changing.
Definitely they are.
Things are getting much, much, much better. And I think, like you said, post-pandemic, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it is.
It just really is.
Yeah. It's the time to be in natural health now.
Yeah,
and it's exciting. It feels very exciting. So I don't know if I've told you enough about the C&M. I mean, the college, no matter what happens, all the students always start with a year of biomed. So they go in and do a year of biomed, and then they choose their specialism. So I'm kind of really focusing on educating people about homeopathy, within the college and on social media, because I think if people really actually knew what homeopathy, what potential it has, I'm pretty sure they'd study that.
It's really brilliant. And you know what? It's been an absolute delight to have you on and talk about all of this. And Zoe, it's been an absolute delight and an honor to have you on. And
thank you.
I do hope we can talk some more later this year. And I do over summer definitely look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, lovely.
Face to face, I mean, not virtually.
Yes, not via Zoom. Yeah, no, lovely. I'll look forward to that. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. And I will talk to you very soon indeed.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye. I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @LikeTreatsLike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far. And of course, you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.